There comes a moment in every woman's life when heaven begins to whisper that something new is on its way. You may not see it yet, you may not even understand it, but deep inside your spirit you can feel a shift. Things that once made sense suddenly don't. People start leaving without explanation. You wake up in the morning feeling a strange mixture of peace and restlessness. It's not confusion, it's preparation. It's God rearranging your life because your season is changing. When God is about to bless a woman, he doesn't just hand her the blessing, he prepares her to carry it. You see, every great blessing comes with a great responsibility. God never gives you something you're not ready for. Before he blesses you, he strengthens you. Before he opens the door, he teaches you how to walk through it. And before he crowns you, he refines you. So if you've been feeling the fire lately, if your heart's been heavy and your world feels uncertain, don't panic. This might be the sign that God is getting ready to bless you beyond what you imagined. When God begins to prepare a woman for a new level of blessing, the very first thing he does is bring separation. It's the kind of separation that doesn't always make sense in the moment. Suddenly, people you thought would always be there start to drift away. Opportunities that once looked promising begin to close. The phone stops ringing. The invitations stop coming. And in the silence that follows, your heart begins to ache, wondering what went wrong. But nothing went wrong. God is working behind the scenes, cutting away what no longer belongs. Because elevation always requires separation. You see, every time God is ready to bless you, he has to make room for what's coming. Some blessings are so big that they can't fit into your current circle or environment. Certain people, habits, and even thought patterns cannot carry the weight of your next level. So before God brings the blessing, he brings the pruning. It's not punishment, it's preparation. He's protecting your future by removing everything that could contaminate it. You may not see it yet, but the relationships that ended, the doors that shut, and the paths that shifted are all divine redirections. God is not taking things from you. He's clearing the path for something greater. Think of it like a gardener trimming a tree. From the outside, pruning looks harsh. It looks like loss. But the gardener knows that cutting certain branches gives room for stronger, healthier growth. The tree doesn't understand what's happening. It only feels the pain of being cut. But in due time, it grows back fuller and more fruitful. That's what God is doing in your life when separation begins. He's pruning away dead branches, relationships that don't feed your spirit, habits that stunt your growth, and situations that drain your peace so that you can bear greater fruit in the next season. The hardest part of this process is the loneliness. When people leave, it hurts. When doors close, it confuses you. You start to question yourself. Was I not good enough? Did I make a mistake? But you must understand, not everyone is assigned to your destiny. Some people were meant to walk with you for a season, not a lifetime. And when their purpose in your story is complete, God will remove them, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy. Because if they stayed, they might block what God is sending next. Every goodbye is actually God saying, I'm making room. In moments like these, faith becomes your anchor. You have to learn to trust that if God allowed something to leave, it's because he's preparing something better to arrive. You can't hold on to what's fading and expect to receive what's forming. So instead of clinging to what's gone, start thanking God for what's coming. Thank him for the pruning. Thank him for the separation, because one day you'll look back and realize that the people who left were part of the plan that made space for your promise. When you stop seeing separation as rejection and start seeing it as redirection, peace enters your heart. You begin to understand that God's love sometimes hides behind closed doors. He's not trying to hurt you. He's trying to protect your future. Every woman God blesses goes through this refining fire. It's what builds strength, discernment, and humility. So don't fight the separation. Embrace it. Let what needs to go, go. Let who needs to leave, leave. What's meant for you will never walk away. And when the blessing finally comes, you'll understand why certain people couldn't be there to see it. God was setting the stage for your next chapter. The separation wasn't the end. It was the beginning of your transformation. When a woman begins to feel a deep restlessness in her spirit, It's often not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something new is being born. Restlessness is heaven's gentle alarm clock, waking you up to what has been dormant inside you. It's that inner stirring that says, there's more. You can't explain it to others because everything around you may still look the same, but something inside you refuses to stay comfortable. The job that once satisfied you now feels limiting. The friendships that once brought joy now feel shallow. The routines that once gave peace now feel empty. It's not confusion, it's transformation. God is shifting you, and your spirit can feel it before your mind understands it. Restlessness is one of the clearest signs that your season is changing. God will never let you get too comfortable in a place that can no longer carry your purpose. He loves you too much to let you settle for less than what He created you for. So when you begin to feel this stirring, don't panic. It's not the enemy trying to destroy your peace. It's God preparing to expand your life. He's allowing discomfort to push you out of places you've outgrown. Just like an eagle stirs its nest to teach its young to fly, God stirs your spirit so you'll spread your wings. What feels like agitation is actually activation. There's a moment before every great move of God when He makes your old life feel too small. You might wake up one day and realize you no longer fit the conversations, environments, or habits you once did. You might find yourself craving quiet, craving clarity, craving something deeper than surface level living. That craving isn't random, it's divine. It's the Holy Spirit calling you to come higher, to move from comfort into calling. Many women mistake this feeling for depression or confusion, but it's really divine dissatisfaction. God is using that restlessness to shift your focus from where you are to where He's taking you. Think about a caterpillar before it becomes a butterfly. There comes a point where the cocoon that once protected it starts to feel tight and uncomfortable. The space that used to feel safe now feels suffocating. The only way forward is through transformation. That's what restlessness feels like. It's the signal that your old form can no longer contain your new identity. You can't stay where you've been and expect to see what God has promised. Growth demands movement. During this season, your spirit may feel torn between staying where it's safe and stepping into the unknown. You'll feel a pull that challenges your faith. And this is where trust becomes your anchor. You have to believe that if God is stirring you, He's also sustaining you. He wouldn't awaken your spirit if He didn't already have a destination in mind. That uneasiness is not meant to frustrate you, but to guide you. God is not trying to make your life harder. He's trying to make your life higher. Restlessness will often come before revelation. Once you yield to it and stop fighting for your old comfort, clarity begins to flow. You'll start to sense where God is leading you. Even if you can't see every detail, He gives just enough light for the next step, not the whole journey. And that's intentional because He wants you to depend on Him, not on your plans. So when your soul starts to stir and nothing feels the same, don't rush to fix it. Sit with it, pray through it, ask God, what are you trying to show me? And then listen. This restlessness is not the end of something. It's the beginning of something divine. You are being prepared for your next assignment, and the feeling of discomfort is simply the stretching that must take place before expansion. The truth is, no woman ever steps into greatness without first feeling the pain of transition. What feels like frustration now is actually formation. You are not losing your peace, you are gaining your purpose. And one day, you'll look back and realize that the restlessness that once kept you up at night was God's way of waking you up to the life He always intended for you to live. When a woman is on the verge of a divine breakthrough, life often begins to feel like a battlefield. Everything she touches starts shaking, and the peace she once had seems to vanish. But what she doesn't realize is that this battle is not a sign of God's absence. It's proof of His presence. The warfare intensifies because the enemy has sensed what heaven is about to release. The closer a woman gets to her promise, the harder hell tries to stop her. Every great blessing attracts resistance because the enemy only fights what he fears. So if you're facing unusual pressure, if obstacles are multiplying, if the storm won't stop, it's because you're standing on the edge of something extraordinary. The battles before breakthroughs are not random, they're intentional. God uses them to strengthen your spirit and sharpen your faith. Before David wore the crown, he faced Goliath. Before Esther saved her people, she faced the risk of death. Before Jesus rose in glory, he endured the cross. There's always a battle before a blessing because battles prepare you for what's coming. God doesn't send giants to destroy you. He sends them to reveal what's inside you. Every confrontation exposes strength you didn't know you had. The very thing that's attacking you is the thing God will use to announce your next season. During this time, you may feel tired and discouraged. You might even wonder why the fight seems unfair. But understand this, when you carry something valuable in your spirit, you become a target. The enemy doesn't waste energy on people who aren't a threat. He fights hardest against those who are close to breakthrough. That's why, right before the blessing manifests, the pressure increases. It's the enemy's last attempt to make you quit before you see the promise. But if you hold on, if you keep standing when it would be easier to give up, you'll discover that the battle was actually your bridge to victory. God never allows a woman to fight a battle that doesn't have purpose. The warfare you face is training ground. It teaches endurance, refines character, and builds discernment. Every tear you cry in the battle becomes a seed for your next harvest. Every disappointment strengthens your dependence on God. When you stop trying to escape the fight and start asking, Lord, what are you teaching me through this? That's when transformation begins. God is not punishing you through the pressure. He's positioning you through it. The struggle is shaping you into the kind of woman who can handle the weight of the blessing when it comes. And there's something powerful about women who learn to fight with faith. They stop complaining about the storm and start praying through it. They stop fearing the darkness and start declaring the light. They realize that spiritual warfare is not fought with physical weapons. It's fought with worship, with prayer, with trust in God's promises. When the enemy throws chaos at you, praise becomes your weapon. When he attacks your mind, Scripture becomes your defense. When he tries to isolate you, you find refuge in the presence of God. That's how you win battles that seem impossible. Eventually, the battle that once terrified you becomes the testimony that strengthens you. You'll look back and realize that every struggle served a purpose. The very thing the enemy used to break you, God used to build you. That's the beauty of divine warfare. God always turns it for good. So when the battle rages and everything feels uncertain, remember this. The storm isn't a sign that you're off course. It's proof that you're about to step into something new. Hold your ground. Keep your faith, because the moment you refuse to give up is the moment the enemy loses his grip. And when the dust settles, you'll stand stronger, wiser, and ready to receive what God has been preparing all along. The battle was never meant to bury you. It was meant to birth the blessing. When God begins to prepare a woman for a blessing, he often leads her into a season of divine detachment. It's a quiet transformation that begins deep inside her soul. Suddenly, the things that once held her attention begin to lose their grip. The excitement of the world fades. The conversations that once entertained her now feel meaningless. The habits that once felt harmless now feel heavy. It's not that she's becoming dull or cold. It's that she's outgrowing what no longer aligns with her spirit. God is cleansing her appetite so she'll crave only what sustains her purpose. He's removing the noise of the world so she can hear his voice clearly. This detachment can feel confusing at first because it often starts when everything seems fine on the surface. There's no big event, no tragedy, just a gradual shift. You stop finding joy in temporary things, the music, the gossip, the constant scrolling, the distractions that once filled the silence now leave you empty. That emptiness is not depression. It's divine hunger. It's God whispering, come higher. He's inviting you to trade shallow satisfaction for deep fulfillment. Before he blesses a woman publicly, he always refines her privately. And that refinement begins when she loses her desire for what doesn't feed her soul. In this sacred process, God is not taking pleasure away from you. He's changing what gives you pleasure. He's teaching you to find joy in his presence rather than in the applause of others. He's showing you that true peace isn't found in control or validation. It's found in surrender. Detachment doesn't mean isolation from people. It means connection with purpose. It means you no longer settle for conversations that pull you backward or environments that drain your peace. You begin to protect your energy because you finally understand its value. This is also a season where silence becomes sacred. You might not feel the urge to explain yourself as much anymore. You'll start withdrawing from chaos, not because you're tired of people, but because you're craving purity. You'll learn to enjoy being alone with God. The world might call it detachment, but heaven calls it consecration. God is setting you apart. He's separating you from the noise so that when he speaks, you'll recognize his voice without confusion. This is how discernment is born, not in crowds, but in quiet. Every woman that God intends to use greatly must go through this phase. Think about Esther before she was crowned queen. She spent months in preparation, detoxing, purifying, learning to wait. It wasn't wasted time. It was transformation. The same is true for you. The detachment you're feeling is not rejection from the world. It's redirection from God. He's detoxing your spirit so your blessing won't destroy you when it comes. He knows that worldly distractions can sabotage divine purpose. So he allows you to lose interest in temporary pleasures to make room for eternal treasures. In this season, you might feel misunderstood. People may say you've changed, and they'll be right, you have. You're no longer chasing approval because you've found acceptance in God. You're no longer desperate for attention because you've discovered identity in Christ. That's what divine detachment does. It shifts your focus from impressing others to pleasing God. You'll begin to see that peace is far more valuable than popularity, and alignment is greater than attention. Eventually, this spiritual detachment becomes your greatest strength. It prepares you to handle blessings with wisdom instead of pride. It allows you to walk into new seasons without the weight of old attachments. You'll notice that you no longer crave what once distracted you. You've become a woman whose fulfillment comes from within, not from the world around her. That's when you'll know God has completed his refining work in you. The detachment wasn't to make you lonely. It was to make you ready. And when the blessing arrives, you'll handle it with grace, knowing your heart now beats in perfect alignment with his. When God is preparing to bless a woman, he often begins to speak to her through divine confirmations. These are moments that feel almost supernatural, small signs that whisper directly to her heart, letting her know she's on the right path. It might be a scripture that jumps off the page as if it was written just for her. It might be a sermon she randomly hears that perfectly matches her secret prayer. It could even be a conversation with a stranger that carries the very words she needed to hear. These are not coincidences, they are divine alignments. God uses confirmation to remind her that he sees her, he hears her, and he's still in control. When a woman walks by faith, there are seasons when she can't see what God is doing. The silence can be heavy and the waiting can feel endless. In those moments, God begins to send gentle signs to sustain her faith. These signs are heaven's way of saying, don't give up. You're closer than you think. They are like breadcrumbs leading her through the wilderness, proof that the promise is still alive, even when the process feels painful. God knows her heart needs reassurance before manifestation, so he gives her glimpses of his hand at work. Sometimes these confirmations show up when she least expects them. She might open her Bible and find the same verse appearing again and again in different places. She might hear the same phrase repeated by multiple people who have no idea what she's going through. Or she might see something so specific that it leaves her in tears, knowing only God could orchestrate it. These are moments when heaven touches earth. They build her confidence, not in her circumstances, but in God's faithfulness. He's not a distant observer. He's an intentional father guiding her step by step. However, divine confirmation isn't just about comfort. It's also about direction. God uses these moments to steer her away from wrong choices and toward divine timing. Sometimes the confirmation comes as peace when she's on the right path, and sometimes it comes as unrest when she's not. The same God who opens doors will also close them, and both are signs of his love. When she learns to read these divine signals, she stops forcing what isn't meant for her and starts flowing with what is. That's when her life begins to align with heaven's rhythm. No more striving, just trusting. These confirmations also strengthen her relationship with God. The more she notices them, the more she begins to communicate with Him daily, expecting His voice in every detail. She stops calling things luck or fate because she recognizes them as God's fingerprints. This awareness deepens her faith. She learns that God is not silent. He's speaking all the time, but only hearts that are still can hear Him. That's why divine confirmation often comes in quiet moments, during prayer, in solitude, or in times of reflection. God speaks clearest when the world's noise fades away. Through this process, the woman begins to see that she's not walking alone. Every confirmation becomes a love letter from heaven reminding her that the blessing she's waiting for is still on its way. These signs don't replace faith, they reinforce it. They remind her that even when she can't see progress, God is moving. Each confirmation says, trust me, I'm working. And then one day when the blessing finally arrives, she'll look back and realize that all those little signs were preparing her for this exact moment. Every verse, every message, every divine encounter was a piece of the puzzle leading her here. She'll understand that God was never silent. He was speaking through every detail, building her trust, deepening her faith, and proving His love. The confirmations were never random. They were divine whispers guiding her toward her destiny. When God begins to confirm His word, it's His way of saying, the promise still stands. Keep walking, daughter. Your blessing is closer than you think. When a woman has walked through separation, restlessness, battles, and refinement, she eventually steps into a season that feels different, calmer, lighter, and strangely peaceful. This peace is not ordinary. It's not the kind of peace that comes from circumstances going well or everything being in order. It's a divine peace, the kind that surpasses understanding. It makes no sense to the natural mind because it shows up right in the middle of chaos. When God is about to bless a woman, He often sends peace before He sends the promise. That peace becomes the inner confirmation that everything is falling into divine alignment. It's heaven's way of saying, you've done your part. Now rest in me. This peace is not something you can fake. It's not found in ignoring your problems or pretending everything is fine. It's born out of trust. Trust that even when life looks uncertain, God is working behind the scenes. It's the kind of peace that says, I don't know how this will turn out, but I know who holds my future. It's a stillness that grows only when you've surrendered your control. Many women pray for blessings, but still try to manage every detail. Yet true peace comes when you release the need to understand everything and simply believe that God's timing is perfect. That release is what ushers in alignment. Divine alignment is when things start to move effortlessly. The right people begin to enter your life. Doors that were once tightly shut begin to open. Opportunities that once seemed impossible start appearing without you chasing them. It's as if all the confusion suddenly clears, and what used to be complicated now flows naturally. You don't have to manipulate or force outcomes anymore because the blessing is finding you. This is what happens when your heart, your will, and your faith align with God's plan. When your spirit is at peace, heaven begins to move on your behalf. Before this moment, you may have gone through seasons of frustration where everything you tried seemed to fall apart. That was not rejection, it was redirection. God was aligning the pieces that needed to be in place. He was protecting you from premature success, from blessings you weren't ready to carry. But now, after the waiting and the refining, everything begins to make sense. The people who left, the tears you cried, the delays that broke your heart, all of it becomes clear. You realize it was never punishment, it was preparation. The peace that fills your heart now is evidence that your spirit has finally caught up with God's will. In this season of alignment, you'll find yourself walking into things you didn't have to beg for. The blessings begin to flow, not because you're striving, but because you're aligned. You no longer need to prove your worth or chase validation. What is meant for you recognizes you. The opportunities that come now are not random. They're strategic. They fit perfectly into the purpose God designed for you. And through it all, peace remains your compass. Even when something looks good but doesn't feel right, that lack of peace will protect you. God uses peace as a guide to lead you into what's truly meant for you and away from what could destroy you. The woman who carries this kind of peace walks differently. She's not anxious. She's not desperate. She's not trying to compete or compare. Her calm confidence comes from knowing that her life is orchestrated by God. She doesn't chase blessings. She attracts them through her obedience and faith. And when alignment takes hold, everything she lost begins to make sense. The waiting season no longer feels wasted because it produced wisdom. The heartbreak no longer feels unfair because it led her to healing. Every piece of her story now fits together perfectly. When peace and alignment arrive, that's the signal that your blessing is not only near, it's already unfolding. You no longer feel the pressure to make things happen because you know that what God has ordained will come to pass. This is the beauty of divine timing. It brings rest where there used to be striving and fulfillment where there used to be frustration. When God's blessing comes, it doesn't bring confusion. It brings clarity. It brings the kind of peace that reminds you, this is what I was waiting for. And in that moment, you'll know that every battle, every delay, and every tear was leading you here to the place of divine alignment where the blessing of God flows freely and your soul finally feels at home.